During a family trip, my parents said I had to sleep on the couch so my brother could have the bed. I smiled, and that's funny because I was the one who booked the presidential suite. Their faces dropped when the hotel manager announced it. From a young age, I learned something very quickly. My younger brother, Ryan, never made mistakes. In my parents' eyes, he was the perfect son, the golden child, the one who got everything handed to him on a silver platter, while I was just a shadow. Birthdays. His were filled with expensive gifts, grand parties, a cake so big it could feed the entire neighborhood. Mine? A supermarket cake. A half-hearted happy birthday. My parents moved heaven and earth, used all their connections, and invested fortunes in his education. And me? I had to work part-time and take out loans to study. It was always Ryan first, me second. If he wanted something, he got it. If I wanted something, I settled for leftovers. I spent years swallowing my pride, accepting my role as the less important son. But on this trip, everything was going to change. It was supposed to be a family trip to New York. My parents handled all the planning, which obviously meant Ryan's preferences came first. He chose the sightseeing spots, the restaurants, everything. They barely consulted me. Honestly, I wouldn't have even gone if I hadn't overheard their conversation one night. "We don't have the money to book the suite," my mother said. "Then we'll put him on the couch," my father replied, not even bothering to say my name. "Ryan needs a proper bed." At that moment, something inside me snapped. I was 27 years old, had a stable job, a good salary, and, for the first time in my life, the power to change the narrative. So I did. On the day of the trip, we arrived at the hotel. A stunning 5-star hotel in the heart of Manhattan. The kind of place my parents would never have chosen if not for Ryan's standards. When we reached the check-in counter, my mother casually handed her credit card to the receptionist. "We have a reservation under Taylor." The receptionist typed something and frowned. "I don't see a reservation under that name." My mother's smile vanished. "That's impossible. I booked the executive suite weeks ago." The receptionist shook her head. "I'm sorry, but there's no reservation under your name." I leaned forward, smiling. "That's because I made the reservation." My father turned to me, surprised. "What?" I pulled out my phone and showed them the confirmation email. "Yep. After hearing you decided I'd be sleeping on the couch like some unwanted guest, I decided to handle it myself." Silence. The receptionist smiled. "Yes, we have a reservation under your name, sir, and it's for the presidential suite." My mother's jaw dropped. My father blinked several times, speechless. "And Ryan?" Ryan looked like he was about to explode. "The presidential suite?" My mother stammered. I nodded. "Turns out I make good money. So I figured, if I'm going to travel, I want comfort." The receptionist continued. "The presidential suite includes a master bedroom, a second bedroom, a spacious living area, and a private terrace overlooking Central Park." My parents looked at each other, then at me, then at Ryan, who seemed on the verge of a meltdown. "You must be joking," my father finally said. I crossed my arms. "Not at all. And since I've booked the room, the master bedroom is mine. You all can figure out the rest." Ryan clenched his fists. "You can't be serious." "I'm very serious," I replied, savoring every second. My mother tried to regain control of the situation. "Fine, we can add an extra bed in the master bedroom, and Ryan can." "How nice, right?" I interrupted. "But no one is sharing. You can have a second bedroom and use the sofa bed. But the king-size bed? That's mine." For the first time in my life, I realized something. I was in control. I made the rules, and they couldn't do anything about it. I let the moment stretch, enjoying the shock on their faces. Then, I grabbed the room key, smiled at the receptionist, and said, "Thank you. I'll head up now." I walked away without looking back, without asking if they needed help. And wow, did it feel good. The presidential suite was immaculate. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park, a massive living room, a full dining area. And the bedroom, spectacular. King-size bed, soft pillows, a bathroom bigger than most apartments. I tossed my bag on the floor, kicked off my shoes, and collapsed onto the bed, stretching out like I owned the world. Then, I heard the knocks at the door. Loud, impatient. I already knew who it was. I took my time opening it. When I finally did, Ryan stormed in, furious, followed by my parents. "You can't do this." Ryan exploded, like a kid who just lost his favorite toy. I leaned against the wall, crossing my arms. "Do what?" "Take the best room." My mother snapped, visibly upset. "You know Ryan has trouble sleeping in small beds." I looked at her. "Sounds like a Ryan problem." My father huffed. "We're a family. We should be together." I let out a dry laugh. "Oh, now we're a family? That's funny because I don't recall that matching when you decided I'd be sleeping on the couch." Silence. Ryan rolled his eyes. Whatever, just give me the room. I raised an eyebrow. Do you hear yourself? Come on, it's not a big deal, my father tried to argue. You've never cared about this kind of thing. I stepped closer. You're right. I never cared because nothing I did ever mattered. Because, in the end, Ryan was always the priority. I looked at all of them. But guess what? I made the reservation, I paid, and now I do care. Ryan glared at me. Stop acting like you're someone important. I laughed again. You have no idea how far I can go. My mother sighed, rubbing her temples. And where are we supposed to sleep now? When I closed the door, I allowed myself a quiet laugh. The feeling of finally having some control, of seeing the surprise and frustration on their faces, was something I had never experienced before. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the afterthought. I wasn't the leftover. I walked over to the bar in the suite and poured myself a glass of whiskey. Not that I was much of a drinker, but this was a special occasion. I sank into the armchair, gazing out the window at the breathtaking view of Manhattan. In the past, this scene would have seemed impossible. I had always been the one who accepted other people's decisions, the one who stayed quiet while Ryan got the best of everything. But now, the rules had changed. My phone vibrated on the table beside me. I picked it up and, unsurprisingly, saw dozens of messages in the family group chat. Angry texts from my mother, outraged ones from my father, and a few from Ryan, shorter, almost threatening. This is ridiculous. Your brother needs a big bed. I can't believe you did this. That was incredibly selfish. You're overreacting. Fix this now. Stop the drama and give us the room. I calmly read through them, taking a sip of my whiskey. Then, I simply muted the notifications. I leaned back in my chair, enjoying the satisfaction I hadn't felt in years. But then, loud knocks on the door again. This time, it wasn't just Ryan and my parents. When I opened it, I saw my Aunt Carla and my Uncle Maurice, who lived in New York and had come to meet us. Clearly, my parents had already complained to them. What the hell is going on? My uncle asked, crossing his arms. My mother wasted no time launching into her dramatic performance. Your nephew here decided to be selfish and keep the presidential suite all to himself while we, his family, have nowhere decent to sleep. I crossed my arms and looked at my uncle, waiting to see whose side he would take. He had always been a serious, diplomatic man. But to my surprise, he looked at me and gave a small, knowing smile. You paid for this room? Yes, I answered firmly. Then it's yours. My mother's eyes widened in shock. What do you mean, Maurice? You've always been a reasonable man. This isn't fair. Fair? He chuckled. Tell me, when was the last time you were fair to him? Silence. My father scoffed. This isn't about fairness. It's about respect for the family. My uncle turned back to me, more serious this time. Tell me, nephew, did you do this just for revenge? I thought for a moment before answering. Maybe at first, but now I realize it's much more than that. It's about finally setting a boundary. He nodded. Then don't feel guilty. You did the right thing for yourself. My mother's face turned red with fury. I can't believe this, Maurice. You're supporting this nonsense. He simply shrugged. I'm supporting the person who finally decided to take control of his own life. Ryan, who had been silent until now, stepped forward into the suite. This isn't over. I took a step closer, unshaken. What are you gonna do, Ryan? Cry until mom and dad fix everything for you again? He clenched his teeth. I had never seen him this angry before. You've always been a nobody. Booking an expensive room isn't going to change that. I stepped even closer, looking him straight in the eyes. Funny, because right now, I'm the one calling the shots. He shoved me. My Aunt Carla gasped. My uncle stepped forward, but I stood my ground. Ryan stared at me, waiting for me to retaliate. But I just smiled. Good luck with the couch. And I shut the door in their faces. The next morning, I woke up to the annoying sound of the suite's phone ringing nonstop. Still half asleep, I reached over and answered. Sir, I'm sorry to bother you, but there's an issue with the other guests in your reservation, the hotel receptionist said cautiously. I already had a good idea of what was coming. What happened? Your parents and brother tried to access the presidential suite, claiming there was a mistake and that you had made an error in the booking. We tried to explain that the suite is under your name, but they insisted on speaking with the manager. I sighed and rubbed my eyes. And what did the manager say? Well, he confirmed that the room is yours, but it seems your family didn't take the news very well. Now they're demanding a room swap, saying there was a misunderstanding. I chuckled quietly, shaking my head. And what's their problem exactly? The executive suite they originally booked was reassigned because the payment guarantee wasn't completed. At the moment, the only available rooms are standard ones. So that was it. Their arrogance had finally landed them in a situation they never thought they'd face, dealing with reality. "Can you transfer me to the manager?" I asked. A few seconds later, I heard a deeper, more serious voice. "Good morning, sir. My name is Patrick. I'm the hotel manager. I apologize for bothering you, but I wanted to see if there was any possibility of negotiating regarding your suite." "Negotiating?" I repeated, amused. "Yes. Your family members are quite unhappy with their accommodations and have asked us to discuss a possible room change with you." I had to hold back a laugh. "So, let me get this straight, Patrick. They planned this whole trip without even considering my comfort, decided I would sleep on the couch without asking me, and now that they're stuck in an inferior room, they want me to give them the presidential suite?" There was a brief pause before he answered. "Well, yes, sir." I smiled. "Then my answer is no." He cleared his throat. "I see, understood. And one more thing, Patrick. If they try to cause any trouble in the hotel, let me know immediately. I'm paying good money for this suite, and I don't want to be disturbed." "Of course, sir. We'll ensure your privacy." I hung up and fell back into bed. The thought of my parents and Ryan being stuck in a basic hotel room, after years of making me feel like an afterthought in my own family, was simply perfect. I made sure to enjoy my morning. I took a long, relaxing bath in the suite's massive tub, ordered an elaborate breakfast from room service, and when I was done, I went down to the hotel lounge. I knew I'd eventually run into my family, but at that moment, I was more than happy to provoke them, and I didn't have to wait long. As soon as I stepped into the lounge, I spotted Ryan sitting with his arms crossed, looking furious. My parents sat beside him, just as frustrated. The most amusing part was that, unlike their usual confident demeanor, this time they looked uncomfortable, as if they were no longer in control. I walked over to them at an unhurried pace. "Good morning," I said casually, picking up a cup of coffee from the buffet. My mother was the first to explode. "Are you happy now? Look at us. We're stuck in a tiny room while you're living in luxury in that ridiculous suite." I took a slow sip of my coffee before responding. "Ridiculous? That's funny, because when you thought you'd be staying in it, it seemed like a fantastic choice." Ryan slammed his hand on the table. "You're just doing this out of revenge." I tilted my head, pretending to think. "Maybe a little. But actually, I'm just treating you the way you've always treated me." My father finally decided to speak. "Don't be ridiculous. You know we've always tried to do what's best for you." I let out a short laugh. "What's best for me? Like when I had to study late at night because you spent all the education money on Ryan? Like when I got cheap birthday gifts while he got the best of the best? Like when you decided I would sleep on the couch without even asking me?" My mother rolled her eyes. "You're overreacting." "Overreacting?" My voice had an edge now. "I think what really bothers you is that for the first time in my life, I'm not staying quiet." Silence. My father looked away. My mother crossed her arms. Ryan clenched his fists. "You can't do this," he said, his voice full of barely contained rage. "Oh, but I can. And I am." I turned to leave, but my mother grabbed my arm. "You're being cruel." I slowly pulled my arm away and looked at her, expressionless. "Cruel? Cruel is what you did to me my whole life." She opened her mouth to argue, but stopped. For the first time, she hesitated, as if she no longer knew how to manipulate me. I walked out of the lounge, satisfied, but I knew this wasn't over. My parents would never admit they were wrong. Ryan would never accept being treated like an ordinary person, and that's why I knew they wouldn't give up so easily. The game had only just begun. That night, I slept better than ever. The king-size bed in the presidential suite was a true throne, and for the first time in years, I felt like someone who truly deserved to be there. My parents and Ryan? Well, they were stuck in a standard room. No luxury, no privileges. That alone was worth everything. But I knew Ryan wouldn't swallow this humiliation so easily. The next morning, I woke up early and ordered a full breakfast through room service. Freshly baked bread, ripe fruit, perfectly cooked eggs, and a flawless cup of coffee. Everything delivered to my private suite. As I ate, I heard loud voices in the hallway. I knew it was only a matter of time before Ryan lost it again. And I was right. When I went down to the hotel lobby, I found him arguing with the manager. Ryan was red with fury, waving his hands aggressively while my father tried to calm him down. My mother stood beside them, visibly embarrassed. "This is ridiculous," Ryan was yelling. "I'm a better guest than him. How can you not do anything?" The manager remained professional. "Sir, as we've explained, the presidential suite was booked and paid for by your brother. We cannot transfer it without his consent." That's when Ryan saw me, and he came straight at me. "You're loving this, aren't you?" He growled. "You think you won?" I crossed my arms, completely relaxed. "I don't think. I know." His expression darkened even more. You've always been a loser. Always. Just because you have a better room for a few days, do you think that changes anything? I took a step closer, looking him dead in the eyes. Ryan, answer me one thing. When was the last time you paid for something yourself? When was the last time you got anything without mom and dad fixing it for you? He opened his mouth, but had no answer. I laughed. Exactly. You can't. He gritted his teeth, and before I even realized it, he lunged to shove me again. But this time I was ready. I stepped aside, and he lost his balance. Ryan clumsily stumbled backward, crashed against the reception desk, and landed on the floor in the most humiliating way possible. The entire lobby went silent. Every nearby guest, hotel staff, and even my parents stared at him. And then someone laughed. At first, it was just a quiet chuckle from a guest waiting to check in. But then another laugh followed. Then another. Within seconds, multiple people in the lobby were either holding back laughter or whispering to each other. Ryan jumped to his feet, his face burning with humiliation. What the hell are you laughing at? But no one answered. They just looked away or kept giggling. My father grabbed his arm, desperate to get him out of there. My mother shot me a glare filled with hatred. You've crossed the line, she hissed. But I no longer cared. Oh, so now there's a line? Because when I was sleeping on the couch, when I had to struggle on my own my entire life, it didn't seem like one existed. She didn't respond. My father just grabbed Ryan and led him away. The hotel manager turned to me, looking slightly amused. Sir, if there are any other issues, please let us know. I smiled. I will. I walked back up to my suite, knowing that for the first time in his life, Ryan had finally crashed and burned. He was no longer the golden boy, the perfect son, the untouchable favorite. He was just a spoiled brat who, when faced with reality, had no idea what to do. That night, I slept even better. And this time, it wasn't just because of the king-size bed. It was because after years, I was finally free. When the trip ended and we returned home, there was a silence that had never existed before. No one said anything at the airport. Not a single word during the flight. No goodbyes when we all went our separate ways. It was as if I had ceased to exist for them. And, to be honest, I didn't care. After years of living in Ryan's shadow, being treated as a background character in my own family story, their silence was a gift. It was confirmation that, for the first time, I had broken the cycle. No more family dinners where I was ignored. No more last-minute messages asking for favors. Nothing. And I was perfectly fine with that. The first few days were strangely quiet. The family group chat remained inactive. Before, it had been a constant stream of messages about Ryan, his achievements, his plans, his demands. Now, there were no updates. No, Ryan just landed an amazing new project. Or we're so proud of what Ryan is doing. And I knew exactly why. Ryan was silent because he was humiliated. Because for the first time in his life, he had lost. And not just a small loss, the kind that gets brushed aside or fixed for him. No, he had lost publicly, embarrassingly, and most importantly, in a way that our parents couldn't undo. And me? Well, I was just living my life as usual. At work, my colleagues noticed that I seemed lighter, more relaxed, more confident. When they asked about my trip, I kept it short. It was great. I had a lot of fun, and I left it at that. Because, unlike Ryan, I didn't need validation or an audience to feel relevant. I had already won where it mattered most. I was free. A few weeks later, I received an invitation to a cousin's birthday party, a family gathering. I could have ignored it, but at that moment, I realized I didn't want to. I had nothing to avoid, nothing to be afraid of. So I went. When I arrived, the atmosphere fell off. Conversations quieted down. People exchanged glances. My mother pretended not to see me and kept talking to an aunt. My father gave me a brief nod, but said nothing more. And Ryan? Ryan wouldn't even look in my direction. I couldn't have asked for a better gift. I grabbed a drink, sat on the couch, and observed. For the first time, I didn't feel the need to fit in. I didn't have to prove anything. And deep down, I knew they were all waiting for me to speak first, to apologize, to make a casual comment, something that would signal that everything was fine and that we could just move on as if nothing had happened. But I didn't give them that satisfaction. I stayed there completely at ease, chatting with my cousins, laughing, enjoying the night. It wasn't until Ryan finally walked over, after more than an hour of avoiding me, that the tension rose. So, he cleared his throat. You seem pretty comfortable, huh? I raised an eyebrow. Yeah, I am. He frowned, expecting more. When he realized I wasn't going to say anything else, he pressed on. Don't you think you went too far on that trip? I took a sip of my drink before answering. No, he scoffed. You've always been a jerk. I shrugged. And you've always been spoiled. He stared at me for a few seconds, waiting for me to cave. to apologize, but I just smiled and went back to my conversation with my cousins. Ryan walked away, frustrated, probably expecting a different outcome. But what he didn't understand, and maybe never would, was that I had already won. Because for the first time in my life, I didn't need him. I didn't need my parents' approval. I didn't need anyone but myself. And that was something they could never take from me. When the night ended, I left the party just as calmly as I had arrived. No one called me. No one tried to stop me. And for the first time, that didn't bother me one bit. I was fine, better than ever.